All right, all right. Let there be no messing about. We're going to dive in as soon as we verify this stream today. So bear with me one moment. This is nauseating work. I am utterly already mentally, physically exhausted to the point I feel nauseous. What is that about? I swear our bandwidth, our limitations is becoming more and more alarming. What is that about? Let's try to dive into some of that and provide ourselves some protections, because we can't afford to get any dumber, any slower, any more sickly. None of us. But there's been so much information, so many things happening. I gotta push through it. More of us must push through it, come what may. Not walk in fear. Thank you, elevator music. So awkward, but it's calming me down. Why is this stream? Come on, work. Refresh this whole page. What is going on? Well, it seems as though we may be good. Let's just rock with it. Reposition Starlink. Hopefully, we'll find out. We'll find out whether this goes seamless or not. Welcome to UNMUZZLED Chat. Might be a little too intense for the moment. Let's drop it down a little. Just to touch on a little of the information we're going to go over in today's episode. But what in the freaking heck is going on in the world? Oh my gosh. Can you keep up? Can you even tolerate to keep up? How many, let me ask folks this, how many are tuning in to this day to the true propagandists? The ones that never apologize about safe and effective, the ones that have never apologized about the 6 million lies. That number is getting thrown around by a certain group very weirdly, historically, for a very long time. Fox, CNN, Newsmax, ABC Soup News, as I like to call it, never apologized. They never admitted the wrongs over any of the lies and propaganda that they projected to this point. Why? On God's green earth would anyone still tune into that garbage? So let's take a trip back into time to Thanksgiving during the scam pandemic. Then let's go over some of the horrific outcome of it all and how it's been swept under the rug by our leaders. Then let's also touch on some very real threats from terrorist groups themselves, that we're all facing these threats. More specifically, what Candace Owens has been facing and has been sharing with so much of us. And there's some good news there too. But join me as we prove yet again how our leaders are no longer serving its people. This literally can be applied to most nations. I would say all, but there seems to be a couple exceptions out there holding out. And lastly, let's touch on the methods being used to take us completely out of the game we call life. So we pose literally zero threat to the ruling class. And yes, there is a ruling class. I like to call them the bankers. And then the ruled. You, me, most of this world's population is the ruled class. With that, time to dive on in. All right, before we dive back into time here during the scam pandemic, let's start off with a litmus test for the day. Ask yourself, are you really free? You have been lied to. 100%. Slavery has changed its costume, but it has never left. The chains are no longer metal. They are made of routine, of debt, of low expectation, of unexamined beliefs, Yeah, wow. Tripping up over words already. I'm telling you, folks, my cognitive, I don't know what's going on, but I'm fighting tooth and nail, and I sure hope you are too. I would just say, I'd reword it differently, but we'll continue. Until you see the truth of your condition, you will never walk free. I wouldn't mind a banner of that. So powerful, so true.
They told you to work hard.
Give this a listen. Powerful stuff.
You have been lied to. They told you to work hard, save a little, retire at 65, and that this was freedom. But if 40 years of labor ends in a pension too small to live on, what do you call that? You were not born to serve until death. You were not born to watch life pass while you trade your soul for a salary. The world does not reward the obedient. It rewards the man who sees the trap and walks out of it. And that man begins here. Listen closely, because if you miss this message, you may work to the grave and still die poor. You believe you are free. You believe that hard work will pay off. You believe that one day, maybe after 40 years of labor, if you've been loyal, if you've saved, if you followed the system, you will get your reward. But I say this to you without apology. If 40 years of labor ends in dependency, then who truly owned your life? I have seen it too many times. Men who gave their entire youth to a job, only to reach the age of 65 with a tired body, a trembling hand, and a fearful glance at the calendar because their money is running out. They obeyed every rule. They stayed quiet. They did what they were told. They worked. They waited. And when the waiting ended, there was nothing waiting for them. I ask you again, who owns the life of a man who gives it away one paycheck at a time, only to die uncertain, unfree, and unremembered? You must understand this. Slavery has changed its costume, but it has never left. The chains are no longer metal. They are made of routine, of debt, of low expectation, of unexamined beliefs. You were told that the system works if you follow it. But what you were not told is that the system was never designed to make you rich. It was designed to make you useful to someone else's wealth. I will not soften my words. I am not here to encourage you. I am here to awaken you. Because until you see the truth of your condition, you will never walk free.
So powerful. Folks, I hope that inspires you. I hope you really were listening. Now ask yourself, do you still genuinely feel you're free? The fact of the matter is, it doesn't have to be this way. And united as one people, as far as America's concerned, we hold all the cards. We can enact vast change entirely. Proper accountability of our leaders actually fulfilling what they project, what we see fit. But let's bring light to this very message going back in time to none other than Thanksgiving time during the scam pandemic. Give this a listen. It helps bring the way the world is now into more context and how we do still have great opportunity right at our fingertips, folks. We just haven't seized this moment in time or properly absorbed any of it. Why?
Vaccinated, should you ask them not to show up?
Yes, I would do that. I mean, I think we're dealing with a serious enough situation right now that if there's an unvaccinated person, I would say, I'm very sorry, but not this time, maybe another time when this is all over.
If someone in your family isn't vaccinated, should you ask them not?
Unbelievable. So, nope. Those that didn't get that, let's even just call it in that moment, an experimental, putting yourself in a lab rat position because they didn't provide any of the information to even back up their safe and effective claims. So yes, you voluntarily in that situation, had you get any of those shots, signed yourself up to be a lab rat. Yay. I just would guess that no one raised their hand in the classroom as a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? Lab rat was on that list. Well, a lot of people, more than half of this nation, fulfilled that label. Unbelievable. So let's just continue with this flashback. Folks, this was blasted. This all over ABC Soup News.
This year, unprecedented warnings from health experts about Thanksgiving.
We're all in trouble. And in fact, this is a potentially life-threatening situation for our whole country.
And we're going to see an unprecedented surge in our hospital systems and in positive cases across the country following that holiday.
Man.
The current upward surge in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations is only getting worse as we head into Thanksgiving. And tonight, top health officials and experts are pleading with Americans to take measures to stay safe
Fear
over this
porn.
holiday.
This thing looks like a mask. It's actually a medical device that can be life-saving. Think of it that way. You wouldn't hold back on that if you thought you could help somebody. Keep those distances where they need to be, 6 feet or more.
What a
Avoid those indoor
joke.
gatherings.
That recommendation to consider canceling gatherings is one piece of guidance the CDC recently issued to Americans regarding Thanksgiving. Other recommendations from the agency? Consider having Thanksgiving dinner outdoors. But is that realistic for people who live in the northern half of the U.S.?
Outdoor dinners may not be feasible for a large portion of the United States, anybody that's living in
can't
areas
believe
where
this
it is
load
going
of
to
crap.
be cold. So the best thing you can do if you are going to have people come to your house is to spread it out and to
Look at
open as
these
many windows
optics.
as you can, provide
Get
as
outta
much
here.
circulation as you possibly can.
Other recommendations from the CDC? Think about hosting virtual dinners.
brainwashing.
Limit the number of people at any gathering.
Having a small gathering of 5 or 6 people might be reasonable if you're within a bubble who each person is maintaining their distance, wearing their masks, and protecting themselves as well as possible.
Wow.
As for wearing masks at Thanksgiving, experts acknowledge masks have to come off when people are eating. But one expert suggests placing a straw under your mask when you drink, so the only time you take the mask off is to actually eat. And she has other
Wow.
recommendations many of us may not have thought of.
What you should do is have people eat in various places in the household with
How are they so I can't. It's too painful. How did this tactic work? Completely conjured up out of thin air. The cold didn't disappear. The flu didn't disappear. People weren't dying in the streets or in their beds or in their houses or at their jobs. Yeah, that came after their solution called a vaccine. That started happening. People died in hospitals, and it was mainly due to, once again, the murderous protocol. And that's what happens when you incentivize certain protocols above all else, and you box our medical staffers from actually fulfilling their oath and practicing medicine. Remdesivir, for example, killed more than 54% of its patients during the Ebola trial. And that became the gold standard. It would have been 100% of the Ebola patients had they continued that. That's why they had to stop it, because it was poison and it was killing people and it was becoming noticed. That is still being administered to this day, by the way. It is unbelievable. But let's continue down this. Oh, God. This one's a little more lengthy, but let's just take a little trip down memory lane.
Yeah, Emma, good morning. It was a tough day yesterday in the U.S. with more than 2,000 COVID-related deaths, the highest single-day numbers.
COVID deaths. Yeah, people on the street on a motorcycle that got ran over by a semi literally got chalked up into the COVID death. You could have been hit by a meteoroid or lightning, and that fake PCR test that had negative efficacy would have, they given a false positive, and they would have added that. It was just a manipulation of numbers. And we haven't addressed this infrastructure. In fact, the censorship, the control over information has only gotten worse. Look at Charlie Kirk, for example. We'll touch on the threat to Candace Owens here shortly. How many of you have really taken upon yourself to try to be unmuzzled and get some of this information out there? Frankly, a lot of the masses, too many of the masses, aren't even willing to, repost a lot of things just due to the potential outlook they may cause, yet they don't want any negative impacts to their digital spheres of influence. So they're not willing to challenge themselves. So I'm just here to tell you that the suppression is so real. It's so impactful. I often wonder if I would have went a different strategic way versus being unmuzzled out the gate. Because I went from, I don't care about any of these social medias or online presence or anything. I was very happy with my life living in reality and not this fakeness. So my online footprint, if you will, prior to feeling called to kick this off was non-existent. But I realized how impactful, how powerful of a tool this has been from evil. And we as a people must balance the scales. Now, I know I'm showing up with a lot of my flaws, 100%. I'll admit them. I clicked the wrong button. See? Flaws right there. And I'm not for everyone. And there's others out there that could do far better than I. For frick's sakes, for example, after all, I'm dealing with a biological weapon called Lyme disease. You could debate me on that, but it was man-created, nothing organic about that. And it has extreme neurological impacts. And there are times I have been bedridden, struggling to even articulate my words out my mouth. So speech was even an issue. So for me to be sitting in this chair, just saying, there's a lot more of you, and we need more of that, not less. And with the terrorist threats on individuals, really freeing people's minds and challenging narratives to where it's actually exposing what Candace Owens has been doing. So many of us have already forgotten about Charlie Kirk. Not entirely, but it's just like our attention span, right? And all the other things. And he called Charlie Kirk in his last moments, near his death, assassination, was calling for a full financial audit of TPUSA. And so many people aren't even aware of the facts regarding the matter, and they're so easily deceived over the FBI and our government agencies, which are entirely subverted, conquered, occupied, controlled, not on behalf of us. And they're believing, because it's what? Inconvenient to research, do a little research and look into it. But anyway, all these egregious outcomes, unacceptable outcomes, that financial audit would have been incredibly telling on a lot of fronts, and more on this futuristically. And I apologize about the rant, but it must be said, it's unacceptable that he calls for that. And then the whole organization as a whole has taken a shift for the worse since. They stopped that audit. Transparency is key. So there's a few we don't need less of us. We need more. And dang it, I'm totally losing. Let's just get back on track. I apologize.
May, and hospitalizations are breaking a new record. A grim reminder that the coronavirus has taken a hold in our country, even with advancements in treatment and vaccines on the way. And with this surge come new recommendations and restrictions. The CDC is issuing a new warning that Americans shouldn't travel for Thanksgiving because of the risk of transmission. But if you do gather with family, they recommend you bring your own food, drinks, plates, cups, and utensils. The CDC also says you avoid going in and out of areas where food is being prepared, and if possible, have the meal outside. But some of the country's largest states are issuing new restrictions before Thanksgiving, even though holiday travel is expected to be cut in half this year because of the pandemic. California is one of the states imposing new rules.
We're asking that as part of this targeted, limited stay-at-home order, that people are home by 10 and stay home until 5 a.m.
Ohio has the same curfew, which will be in effect for the next 19 days.
We are now at the most crucial phase of this pandemic.
And in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker is ordering the closures of certain businesses, with COVID-19 now being the third leading cause of death in the state.
No matter what we do to mitigate the potentially damaging effects of this virus, it will require some sacrifice.
What a joke.
These mitigations cause a number of...
I can't, folks. If you want to watch these in their entirety. All the links are provided in Rumble in the description below. I challenge you to go down memory lane. It is important. I've already gone through them, and I guess my patience is, it's over with it. I've gone through it all. It is valuable. I really should be sticking through it. It's truly unbelievable what we endured, what we went through, and then the data, the information, the writing, so to speak, is on the wall. And their solution, we'll get into that here shortly, was so damning. The fallout due to all of this. I mean, right there, it just was breaking my heart seeing businesses, how many generational family businesses went bankrupt due to the mandates, the criminal, illegal, unconstitutional laws or actions taken. We've all suffered greatly. It is never to be forgotten. If anything, I'm thankful for the opportunity this Thanksgiving to sit down. I want to bring these topics up to family and friends, that we've made it through. There's a lot to be thankful for, but thankful above all for the opportunity to reflect, because it is up to us to seek change and secure our future. There's no world leader, there's no presidential figure that could even make it into that seat, because the infrastructure itself is entirely corrupted and controlled. So there are groups and individuals that control the outcomes. And if we just got to be unified to an extent, they can't essentially JFK anyone we really would organically stand up on our behalf. And if we can't systematically, effectively have that as a viable outcome, then we could rule for a reign as a people without that seat filled. And there's a lot of courses of action we've gone over in other episodes where it's not, yes, worst case scenario, we have the Second Amendment, and it's in our rights, right, to, we're even called to abolish any oppressive, tyrannical government. And we would be derelict in our duties have we not face that tyranny. So you can't fake pose patriot, nationalist, and still be banking on any. Look at how all administrations are fulfilling the same evil deeds, not really addressing the core on behalf of its citizens and its country. Just for example, why we care more about other countries' borders than our own. Anyway, let's continue. Look at this. All right, little comic relief, and then we'll get back into the seriousness. But come on, folks. The COVID era. Will future generations look back at this time as the most embarrassing period in human history? Unbelievable. Look at this, folks. You can't make this stuff up. Oh my gosh, that's a freaking microwave oven thing. Wow. And she has a mask on under that. What the frick? A toad? Really? I'm embarrassed for you. Wow. Garbage bag score. Oh, gross. You've seen the, come on, a Brillo bat. Wow. You get the point. You've seen them. Unbelievable. But to get back on a serious note, how many of our grandmas died alone in the hospital? Or husbands, wives fired over a mandate? So many of our military men and women. Unbelievable. They're still fighting for accountability, proper compensation, reinstatements, you name it. And my heart is torn. If you dive into anyone, look at Lance Castle's story. We've had him on. Unbelievable. Your teenage son has heart problems. You lost your business. You weren't allowed to go to church. Your 2-year-old was forced to wear a mask. But you want to forget the whole thing? No. I will never forget. Powerful stuff. So, thank you for plugging this video. Because, yes, they've tried to keep this off social media and suppress this information. And people dying suddenly because of the jab. Check this out. It's just countless individuals.
All that talk you heard about 5G interfacing with the shots, it's true. DARPA research and the operational programs to infect us with remote controllable prion clusters in the brain before they even rolled out COVID. I just got chills. This is so evil. I mean, this is how you take over. You colonize people. You implant everybody with these, whether you've had the shot or not. It's everywhere. You get these proteins growing in you. They hit you with the frequency, and it looks like you died of a stroke. Man, this is bad. All over your brain, hit you with it. Bzzz, crystals grow in the next few days, cut through arteries, cut through veins, cut through capillaries, stroke out. Or he says we can just hit them with a light dose and just fog everybody out and make them sick where they can't think straight. All that talk.
Never in human history have we experienced the level of even our top tier athletes dying suddenly. It went from heart issues, 5, no more than 10, kind of annually worldwide, to thousands annually. Fact of the matter is we can't even comprehend because we're not even keeping up with the influx of data that is just pouring out. Most are in a place of cognitive dissonance because if they actually got influenced to roll up the sleeve, God forbid, and manipulated and coerced into doing it to themselves or even worse, their children and loved ones. So now there's this just disconnect and like unwillingness to face reality and the truth of the matter. But on a good note, the truth can lead you to other doctors that are actually having breakthroughs on eradicating those bioweapons, poisons and metals and graphene oxide out of your system. The spike proteins, the things that are leading to the clots. So your very life depends on your own willingness to stay ignorant or grow as a human and face the challenges and the reality you're living with. But it breaks my heart. This is not ever to be swept under the rug. And we haven't faced any proper accountability. Redacted, folks. So even Alex Jones on that other one, he's an entire shill owned at this point. Sure, will there be moments, him or InfoWars, like Owen Schrouder, or however you pronounce it, I apologize, Owen. He's more so unmuzzled, but Alex himself is a total shill. So, granted, yes, certain talking points, certain narratives, there may still be some value to the things he's exposing, but as a whole, can you count on InfoWars for someone that has sold out? And we know who he's shilling for. So, Redacted, doing a very good job. Tucker Carlson, doing a very good job. Candace Owens, very good job. We only have so many. Stu Peters. But right here, ex-Pfizer executive, Dr. Michael, there was no pandemic. The whole thing was a global push to inject billions.
No pandemic at all. Well, you'd be right, according to ex-Pfizer executive Dr. Michael Yaden. Again, these aren't my words, although I agree with him.
I challenge you. This is a 7.5-minute clip. It's worth every second. Check it out in the links below. As you can see, we got a lot of queued up for today. We're just going to mash through it. And my irritation meter is already through the roof, gearing this up. There's a lot of effort that goes into this. But here's some more data. If it's not enough and people are still having a hard time facing the reality, send them the singular clip. This goes over the specifics. We'll play this one in its entirety. I think I already have it queued up. Yeah, 1.5, because this gentleman, as great as he is a very slow speak. So I always put it 1.5 in it. It's more enjoyable. Give this a listen.
And I want to go over two massive studies that kind of just throw the whole safe and effective narrative out of the water. So the two largest COVID vaccine safety studies ever conducted, the first one's by Fuxova and colleagues. This had 99 million people in it. They found 500% increased risks of myocarditis, 300% increased risks of spinal cord inflammation, which can be permanently disabling. It can cause paralysis, and about 200.
It was transverse myelitis?
Yes, transverse myelitis.
Yeah.
And so we have all these things. Yeah. And then we have the second largest vaccine safety study ever conducted, which was published a few weeks ago. That had 85 million people in it and had a control group. So it was about 40 million vaccinated, 40 million weren't. It was a meta-analysis. They found 300% increased risks of heart attack. They found 200% increased risks of arrhythmias. They found about 250% increased risks of stroke. And so now we have the largest population sizes ever studied that were vaccinated, and we find these massive risks.
Wow. Dr. McCullough, amazing work. His whole foundation and everything they're doing over there. How are we as a world populace accepting? Because there's been no proper accountability. We're allowing a current sitting president to still boastfully praise Warp Speed, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, the companies behind it, the doctors behind it, the actions they took. How is that acceptable? How are we accepting the unacceptable? Yeah. It's not just this niche, folks. As we've gone over, we all know Western medicine as we know it and the whole infrastructure has been entirely corrupted. So the mental exercise, at the point we're being lied to, how is it most of us have come, a lot of us now at this stage, I'd venture to say, we understand the lies, the deception, and the utter bullshit, tied to the scam pandemic. We understand their solution being nothing shy of a biological weapon. But for some reason, so we have this distrust there. How is this not transcending over into the rest of the medical? There's like a cognitive disconnect as well. How is this not transferring over once again to the news that lied to us? The government? All these institutions. Why is it like there's an exception to our waking up? A limitation, if you will. It's like we're happy within the box. We'll reach out of the box and acknowledge this lie, but everything else. The only way we set ourselves up for proper, real informed decisions is the simple distrust. I know it's inconvenient, but with everything. Then that gears us up to doing the proper research, our due diligence, and actually educating ourselves on any given thing, whether it's political, medical, business, economical, you name it. So just for an example, the only reason chemotherapy is used is because doctors make money from it, period. It doesn't work 97% of the time. And I love the analogy, the example he uses with Ford Motor Company. Just give this a listen. It's no joke. This is real statistics, real data.
Chemotherapeutic drugs
are the only classification of drugs that the prescribing doctor gets a direct cut of. So if your doctor prescribes chemotherapy for you, here's how it goes, more or less. The doctor buys it from the pharmaceutical company for $5,000, sells it to the patient for $12,000, insurance pays $9,000, and the doctor pockets the $4,000 difference. And there ought to be a law. The only reason chemotherapy is used is because doctors make money from it. Period. It doesn't work 97% of the time. If Ford Motor Company made an automobile that exploded 97% of the time, would they still be in business? No. This is the tip of the iceberg of the control that the pharmaceutical industry has on us. When women get together and do a 5K run for breast cancer, all of that money, do you think any of that money goes to nutritional research? Do you think any of that money goes to homeopathic research or acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine or naturopathic research? No. All of it goes to...
So is this all doom and gloom? Absolutely not. If we accept the reality of the world we're living in, then, and only then, can we properly address it and make the shifts where they need to happen to secure our well-being, our futures, our quality of life, our financial wealth, our opportunity individually and as a country and as a world. It's the damn bankers. I mean, Rothschilds, for example. Aren't you aware of the mother of one of them dating back, not that long ago, but it's some time ago, stating, quote, "If my sons didn't want any world wars, there would be none." So it's the bankers, it's the weapons manufacturers, the Big Ten, so many that position themselves into profiting from world wars and through the money, the sphere, the influence, the connections, the true umbrella and outreach of the synagogue of Satan and truly evil individuals, because you got to be evil to see this through. But they sell us all this propaganda. We get all rah-rah over a flag, over a national identity, send our littles to be slaughtered in slaughter. I just don't want to see any of these red flag events. The ruling class effectively pit nations against nations because this ruling class transcends any borders. You understand? We're literally being utilized as pawns, and they position themselves. They are the only ones that profit from this chaos at the loss of our lives. And with all the information, we're going to gear up. Like there's more protections and more action that needs to be done, because at the point this is even getting out to the degree it is, they can only take out so many of us. Charlie, JFK, MLK, all these doctors. I mean, there's a growing list in my personal phone. I have conversations and I come across certain posts and then I look into it and I'm like, holy smokes, this person was really exposing this about the pandemic, or this person was really exposing this about the war machines. And they all face a similar fate of being suicided. Yeah, they make it to the list, and it's an ongoing. Janet was one of them that created the fall of the cabal. But anyway, time is of the essence, because in the tail end of this, we're going to get into pretty much it doesn't matter tactic, because with time, we will lose the ability, and we are losing the ability to be a proper solution or a threat in any regard. So anyway, to the point of this, it was just a touch on. I know it jumped out of the scam pandemic, but it was just an example of the chemotherapy, cancers, for example, how all Western medicine, I mean, we could even jump ahead, because for frick's sakes, these vaccine companies under this current administration are still allowing immunity to continue. It still continues. Unacceptable. They're still allowing the pharmaceutical companies to still advertise, and their funding still continues. This administration just did deals, signed over $70 billion to Pfizer. A $50 billion deal with AstraZeneca. They're gearing up for levels of, hey, it doesn't matter how much information, and they're doing all they can to control the information. That's why they're propaganda, weaponizing, suppression, censorship, shadow banning, and then attacks on personal character. You can see that's even what woke Charlie Kirk up. And he posed the ultimate threat to the position he was put in and given and allowed and supported to grow into what it was, because once he started questioning certain things, the backlash, right? So they just try to defame and your character and demoralize you to just fall in line. And the majority of people fall for it. They're not willing to truly sacrifice. They're not willing to die, be murdered. Their families suffer, see financial ruin. Who is it? Kanye West. Literally was like, wow. It wasn't until he started speaking out about Israel and things along those lines that he's like, seemingly overnight, he went from a billionaire to being one of us. Even stating that his money, I didn't even realize, like, it's not his money. So they have an incredible amount of power. So we got to take the lack of trust into all other sectors, spheres of everything that makes up our society and the world as we know it. Candace Owens, this tells me that she's not willing to cave, or this is getting to her and she's breaking and shelling up. The fact that she's sharing this information says all I need to know. I trust her more and more. But we must help and support warriors like Candace. Cowards that think ignorance is bliss will soon find out there's absolutely nothing blissful to living in a false reality. Time to unplug from the dang matrix already. That is all freaking fake. Meaningless. Think about it. I'm trying to influence in here by stating, put on your big boy pants and secure the future for you and your loved ones. That we can all be safe. We have a lot of work to do. Let's get to it. So Candace posted 2 days ago, and this was just this week. I was contacted by a high-ranking employee of the French government after determining this person's position and proximity to the French couple. I have deemed the information they gave me to be credible enough to share publicly in the event that something happens. In short, this person claims that the Macrons have executed upon and paid for my assassination. Yes, you read that correctly. More specifically, that the green light was given to a small team in National Gendarmerie Intervention Group. I am told there is one Israeli that is on this assassination squad, and the plans were formalized. Again, this person proved concrete proof that they are well placed within the French government. Further to this point, this person claims that Charlie Kirk's assassination, trained with the French Legion 13 Brigade, with multi-state involvement. Journalist Xavier, I don't know how to pronounce, life is also at risk. This is deadly serious. The head of state of French apparently wants us both dead. and has authorized professional units to carry this out. I ask that every person retweet and share this. We must do that, folks. We don't do that. That's the best protection we could even give her. This is just a citizen of this country, a woman that is exercising freedom of speech. Why would the French or an Israeli or anyone want her dead? What would benefit? Let's ask ourselves, with the French connection here, how would this serve the French? Potentially, if they were caught, terrorist cells, assassination right here on U.S. soil, they would be threatening, in a normal world, to go into war with America. It doesn't serve. What benefit do they have? This is where I believe the world agencies aren't serving individual countries or presidential figures. It's the ruling class. And this is a strategic move, in my eyes, for the world leaders to benefit, to get the lens off of Israel, which they put a lot. That's just a tactic in my book. Is the Israelis truly behind the depth of all our woes? Well, a lot of the Satanism behind it, sure. But no, it's a tactic very effectively being used, being deployed right here on U.S. soil. Look at all this current administration's executive orders that are infringing on our speech, trying to stomp out anti-Semitism. All the attacks from Donald J. Trump to Thomas Massey, Margie Taylor Greene, anyone that isn't willing to take money from AIPAC and has anything legitimate to ask about that tactic. Just like Charlie Kirk before he was effectively assassinated. You know what? On that point, let's take a quick break here from all this noise. We'll get right back into it. We're not to forget Charlie Kirk. And yes, there are a lot of holes. And to go on this little binge and show you my 30-06 that I inherited from my grandpa, this isn't even as definitive and shaking, that just entirely disproves. The evidence is out there, more so, that proves their whole narrative, the FBI's narrative, is a hoax. It's propaganda. It's a joke. You could look at it from the timestamps. Time travel would have to be a thing. Teleportation. Because the documented timestamps of this shooter being documented here and here, like they're at the same time, and you can't. Teleportation would have to be. There's so many holes, but one of them is this rifle. We're looking at a velocity of 3,000 feet per second. These rifles, the 30-06 round, this has been a proven rifle that a true marksman can hit accurate kill shots at a mile out. This is one of the biggest game rounds there is. And just a lot of people haven't even seen a 30-aught or held or shot. There's a reason on this butt stock here, there is over 1.5 inches gummy. I shot it many years without that. And if you don't have it tucked up and positioned just right, you're bruised. You're wearing it and you're feeling it for days. Just a single shot. After a box, which is only 20 rounds, or 20 rounds, you'd be lucky to find any of these $25, $30. So we're talking a round that is over $1 a round, and that's on the lower end. But just to give you some perspective on this caliber rifle, I mean, I don't have women hands, we'll say that, but I know this round is over 3 inches in length. There's a lot of powder. This projectile, and I could pull it up. I took down a Coos buck some years back where my heart was racing so bad I was aiming center mass, but my heart was racing. In fact, it was my first buck. And I just got lucky, and it's not lucky to not hit where you were aiming. And I've since then brushed up and slowed the heart rate. It just comes with time and experience. And that's one of the things you can't teach this kid. I just know, I'm certain, some kid wasn't able, the only trained assassins by that narrative would have been able to complete that shot. 100%, indisputably. But when you look at the footage, there's a reason why they're withholding so much of the 4K 10 feet away videos from us all, because it would prove that their lie is just that, a stinking lie. Because the other video evidence, and this says it all, when you see the motion in the shirt, go up here, smoke breach in the collar, and then motion over here, a singular round hitting an individual wouldn't create a wave over here, that dissipate, and then another wave over here. Now, I can't say definitively, but I can say what my eyes are seeing and what I believe to be true. And I believe his lapel mic was weaponized and exploded and ended his life. This round, this projectile, when I shot that buck and it hit him in the neck, I could show you the pictures, almost took off his whole head. And it had so much velocity, you could have stacked up 4 other bucks. Who's to say? Others have done the velocity of these rounds and how many things it will go through before it's non-deadly. You could look that up, have fun with it. We all saw that horrific footage. We owe it to Charlie to get to the bottom of it. And something stinks to high heaven about TPUSA, all these other individuals that are involved. The reactions right after, I mean, that one guy I cannot get over, running over there to clear the table. The only reason to clear the table like a gymnast and be over there is to provide aid to Charlie. But he does that whole maneuver to grab stuff and then quickly get out of frame, leave Charlie behind. That doesn't even compute. It doesn't make sense. And I love how Candace is going the distance with it. Why isn't Erica? Why isn't Charlie's wife? There's so much about this that just stinks to high heaven. But if I showed you that buck, it's graphic. There's nothing pretty about it. There was so much tissue missing because it clipped the spinal cord. Everything was gone. Vocal cords, arteries. It was just a little bit of tissue, skin and fur holding the head together. It was just a clean swipe, single swipe of a blade to separate the head from the body. There wasn't damage. There wasn't blood splatter all over everyone. There weren't others injured. To believe that, folks, why we can't let this go is because that was a terrorist organized assassination. Now Candace is facing similar threats. Any one of us, we can't allow this to be the lies to be believed, and we must get to the bottom of it. Fact of the matter is, as it is with all the corruption, we won't get to the bottom of it. But that lack of trust gives us the direction on what we must do to secure the future. Let's get back into it. I'm livid because Candace is a beautiful woman, inside and out, doing us all a huge favor and putting her life on the lines for us, for truth. And it's not just the specific narratives. What? France and these operations, other countries want to take her out because she's wanting to get the bottom of Charlie's death? Come on. I'm losing the words to really express. If you want to come on and have this conversation, reach out to unmuzzledchat@gmail.com. Let's finish up this message. She's asking us all, every person, to retweet and share this. I don't know who in the American government can be trusted, since this source claims our leaders are aware. That's extremely telling. But I have more specific information, which is definitively verifiable, should they care to reach out to me. To the brave official in France who did this because they were so moved by the evil of Charlie's public execution to risk their own life, may God bless you truly. Let all be revealed. This guy uses an example. Yeah, it's just foolishness. All his anti-Semitism and everything. Imagine being Jewish and mocking someone under death threat on the anniversary of JFK's assassination, saying she's cooked, but then cry about the Holocaust and whine about anti-Semitism, not beating the stereotypes. So Candace posts this, boom. This Israeli individual, laugh out loud, you're so cooked. Unbelievable. So it looks like she reached out to the government. I have informed people in the federal government, in the White House, of the France and Israel assassination plot. And I am willing to provide full details as well as the name of the assassins and international accounts in France and Canada through which money was exchanged. Beyond that, I have shared more information with the public regarding the Bridget story I was investigating at the time of Charlie's assassination. This is all available on my Insta stories. Thank you for reaching out and praying for my family. God bless you, Candace. Folks, get in here, follow, subscribe, show up for Candace. It's more important than the specific topics that she's exposing. This all leads to the awakening of how corrupt the infrastructure itself. Once again, I was extremely hopeful, 3-time voter for this administration, Donald Trump himself. But there was only one way to find out if he was truly going to step up or not. Unfortunately, and we've covered through Is He Good or Evil, all these other episodes, and it's his words himself, it's his actions himself. I'm not mincing any of it. It's just the reality of the situation. It's a hard pill to swallow, I admit. It's unfortunate, but the reality is it's all a uniparty. It's two faces to the same coin, and we must divert our energy to understanding who owns the coin, who supplies that coin. And the depth these warriors are exposing is showing just that. And with that understanding, we will no longer fall prey to the bankers' endless war regime. Because what does all this matter? You know, at the point they organized more red flag events, and there's a lot of experts stating, or, you know, just the writings on the wall, that more than likely, here in the very near future, 9/11 is going to look like a beautiful day in comparison as to what they're going to do. And then they paint the target and we react, rah, rah, let's get them. And we just fall for it. Naturally, as a people, we aren't that evil, folks. We don't want it that bad. We just want opportunity. We want freedom. That's it. Equal opportunity. Under freedom. That's it. So it's proof. There's very evil individuals running very powerful, not just organizations, but have gained the ability to control governments, presidential seats, and stall. As we did in Ukraine with Zelensky and so many others. But I digress. The good news regarding everything Candace is dealing with, I mean, this particular post, and I haven't verified regarding Joe Rogan, but word is that she's even exceeded in ways Joe Rogan's online sphere of impact. That is excitable. Great news. This one is indicating that she has officially surpassed Ben Shapiro. Evil individual. I can't stand looking at him. I can't stand listening to him. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about anybody. I don't know what is driving. I mean, nothing in this life is worth selling your soul. There's nothing to be gained. But too many clearly are willing to do that. So that is great news. Let's just continue to help it grow. Yeah, this is pretty powerful. And I do believe she kind of sums up in cracking the code on Larry Ellison acquiring TikTok and various media conglomerates. Is she right? Give this a listen.
Why is Larry Ellison trying to buy Warner Brothers Discovery? He just bought Paramount. Why does he want media companies? Why would he? He wants to hang out with movie stars? No. He has a fucking ego problem? What does he do now? He runs the largest data storage and processing company? Why? Well, before founding his company called Oracle, he worked on a project for the CIA called Oracle, where he was paid to build a database for the government. And so he probably has and knows how to get data on all of us. Good. I don't get how this is all somehow connected. You just said it's connected, so you must know. He also wants mass surveillance. He said citizens will be on their best behavior because we'll be recording and reporting everything that's going on. And he also said the government should consolidate all of the national data and feed it to AI. And all of this is connected how? I don't really know. It's in your head. You just have to find it. What does this have to do with owning an entertainment company? You already said it's connected. Just tell me how. Well, his data centers are the ones that OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, relies on. And if he owns the data centers, no matter what AI company pulls ahead, he'll have control over where it's all stored. So he's put himself in a position that even when the AI bubble bursts, he'll succeed no matter what. And so he's buying media companies so that he can create AI-generated content. Good. But what if no one watches it? You think he hasn't thought of that? The TikTok deal? Why? He's reported to be that leader of the group of investors making a bid to buy TikTok. More? Well, he also has the data to do hyper-targeting so that people get a tailored algorithm of AI content. And so it's about control. He wants to control the information we get through AI, the media we see. It won't be entertainment though, will it? It will be propaganda that looks like entertainment. Good. And so while everyone's focusing on what the administration's doing, Larry Ellison is quietly building this empire. The worst kings are quiet.
Wow, wow, wow. Very powerful stuff, folks. Watch that a few times. Absorb it. And then you can grasp the proper discernment that not even just that singular man is tied to. Because this helps us understand, oh, how do I even word it? The ruling class and the levers of control it's amassed across the freaking board. Here's another one. And this does make me sick in more ways than one. This is AIPAC's largest donor now. Leonid owns, another Jewish individual owns the platform that encourages young women to turn tricks online for money. OnlyFans. Majority owned. Leonid, I don't even know how to pronounce that, who gets a cut of his employees' sex earnings. Yeah, I believe we call that a pimp. It's the top recent donor to AIPAC. Since the 7th of October, he's pledged $11 million to help AIPAC lobby U.S. lawmakers on behalf of Israel. The moves through the tactic of Israel and a God's chosen people and anti-Semitism, a topic we can't even question, or you'll be Charlie freaking Kirked. No disrespect, just being real, has been a very effective tactic. We can make that a non-issue. We can regain our constitutional independence in this country. They still have all these other tactics rolled out right here. We wouldn't even make a dent. So it's seeing past the impact. Israel, an insignificant country, smaller than New Jersey, with a smaller GDP than New Jersey, only 9 million people. I believe that's even a smaller population than New Jersey. It's just a tactic evil is utilizing. And we're not to fall prey. No, surprise, newsflash. The new Israel, place we call Israel, that was established in 1948 is not the biblical Israel. Jesus warns us about this in Revelation 2:9, repeats it in Revelation 3:9. But I'm with you, Mel. Who the hell do these people think they are? The Jerusalem Post, Pope Leo, whatever number, must denounce Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, which is a growing star in my book, for sinful anti-Semitism, for noticing your crimes, for noticing your subversion tactics, for noticing your infringements on our freedoms here, for noticing all your flags hanging by the doors of all our representatives, Congress, Senate, presidential, for noticing? I'd venture to say this denouncing is more so becoming a hit list. Thomas Massey is becoming increasingly more impressive in my eyes as well. He's stating, I won't bankrupt our countries to fund Israel's war, the war in Ukraine, or any war for that matter. That makes me a target for AIPAC, RJC, and other proxies for the military-industrial complex. I am America First, and I will beat this neocon with your support. Let's support this man. You know what? Boom. Click. And that's how it's done, folks. Yeah, this is who we're arguing with. By the way, links below.
What happens on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has great influence on events as they occur on the ground. The internet, too, is a battleground. It is thus comforting to learn that the IDF employs soldiers whose job titles are
There you go. IDF's employing soldiers, and this has only been ramped up. The simple fact, through that FARA and recording Israel now, I mean, we've spent this administration alone and counting, and it's probably above this number now, but it was $24 billion last I checked. This administration alone funneled over to there. That's just getting funneled back to buy out our own country. That's being funneled back into that FARA document where it admits they're strategically targeting churches in this country and hundreds of churches to set up geofencing, digital fences that you go into that parking lot to pick someone up and leave, that now you're being tracked, you're being watched, your name, your address, your phone number is all on a list there. And now at minimum, they can pump pro-Israel content. That is deceitful. That's manipulative. That isn't a tactic good would utilize. And the fact our country isn't taking any measures to protect its citizens with that form of manipulation through information blows my mind. But just to shift a bit, at what point do you stop saying he's keeping his enemies close, bruh, and admit your enemies are all just his buddies? Okay? Even General Flynn stated to this post, do you get it now? But to that picture, because if we click into this, it's General Flynn replying to this very picture. There is no 5D chess being played. Everyone needs to understand that. What you see is what you get. That explains all the other things. The Epstein cover-up, everything, folks. If you're an American, your government committed a genocide. It didn't just enable a genocide. It didn't just fail to stop a genocide. It didn't just look the other way on genocide. They committed a genocide on live TV in 4K and force you to pay for it. You don't take a stance on the reality. We had a part to play in that genocide. And you don't look into how unconstitutional, how voluntary income tax even is, and you're just a good little, you just believe everything you were spoon-fed that it's a patriotic thing to do to pay for your demise and others, and you don't start sharing this information. I'm sorry, I don't even know spirit, like, boy, am I grateful I'm not in that judgment seat. God apparently is perfect with it, but you don't suppose he's going to hold our role in all of this over our heads to an extent? We would be some level of naive and ignorant to just, well, excuse ourselves. Well, my sphere of influence to this level of suffering, over 680,000 innocent lives, the majority of that being children under the age of like 14. Unbelievable. It truly is disgusting. To shift over, though, Congressman Thomas Massey was lucky enough to get a copy of the Epstein files. Oh, let's give a quick glip.
This one's not
let's see what
readable.
He got.
It's completely redacted.
Completely.
For the most part, the first 50 pages. This one's not readable.
Wow, folks. I'm convinced, and it's speculative, but all the information, I mean, just the sheer perversion on Donald J. Trump and the information that's out there, that how he even references to his daughter when asked in a newscast, you know, the daughter's like, oh, what do you admire about your dad? And, you know, like, and she talks about business and entrepreneurship, all these things. And then Trump's asked, and he's like, well, I was going to say sex. And nothing funny about that. How he humored the conversation with Howard Stern to even allow another known perverted man to perv on his own daughter and be agreeable with him on lumptuous curvation of his own daughter. I'm sorry, that man is implicated. That's why he's fighting tooth and nail. That's why he called it a Democrat hoax. This isn't 6 million D space chess, folks, like freaking General Flynn was talking about. What you see is what you get. Check this out. Amazing quote by George Washington. It is our policy to steer clear of any permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world. It's our policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world. You look, this was just a quick chat GBT. You could ask, and that's a terrible. You should be going to uncensored AI. You should be doing your own research. It's terrible, but they can't hide all the facts. So it's incredibly telling. But there were amounts in there, not just from Miriam Adelson, but through AIPAC, so many. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, I do believe George Washington must be turning over in his grave. I stand firm on this. If you are in a position of power in this country and you have a foreign flag hanging, or you take any money from unregistered foreign groups, or you have dual citizenship, you should at a minimum be deported immediately. More so, ideally, they would automatically be convicted with treason. And I mean every essence of that word, what it means to us now, what it means to us historically, and what is typically done to treasonous characters. Now, you maintain the right. I believe in this country, you want to be a private citizen, you want to show some support, you want to have flags hanging, you have that freedom. But if you're a representative, an elected official to this country, and you do any one of those three things, that is treasonous behavior. And it should be unacceptable. And I don't understand how we're sitting back and accepting that. And it's having psychological impacts, brainwashing, and it's tied in not just to our political sphere, but into our churches and has been for generations. Think about it. What do you think historically the devil's plans would have been? To infiltrate politics over religion? No. No. Religion, then politics. Oh, wait. That would include our whole government and agencies. Literally everyone. I only know of two exceptions. Thomas Massey and Margie Taylor Greene. Let me know who I'm missing that don't meet those three criteria. Let me know. Starting to make sense. Why it's America last. Warp speed, Epstein hoax, no accountability to prior administrations, endless wars, funding, supporting death, not just in Gaza, but all over the world. And yes, this includes right here at home. No privacy for private citizens. No transparency for public officials. Quite contrary. You want to reach out, you want to question things, you actually will get under the thumb. You want to address the grievances on Jan 6, you will get thrown in the gulag without due process. Et cetera, folks. That list could be very long. We can make a whole episode on that list. God willing, maybe I will. Futuristically speaking. Folks, this is not a war of the left versus right, like our own government, like this very administration would have you believe. It's literally a war of the ruling class that has no borders, that has no rules against the ones they rule over, you. If you care, if you like these posts, follow UNMUZZLED Chat on X. Those links are down below too. You'll get more of them frequently. That and others' hard work, like Candace. So many others, folks. That is the important bare minimum we could be doing. Step away from the liars and deceivers and propagandists that have proven they are just that. The shills, ABC Soup News. I've lost hope that Americans were even, or people that cherish freedom would even make the self-sacrifice of getting off known, tyrannical, oppressive platforms. We are choosing slavery as a people. The world leaders know this, and they just are refirming up their grip on those reins day after day after day. Do you care to actually live for something grand, eternal? Do you want to make a difference at all? Join us. Let's create solutions together. We are the dang solution. What have we been waiting for? Time is of the essence. God bless. Folks, there has been and I'm sure you've seen it, if you have any involvement on X, since we sound the alarm on Netanyahu talking how important it was to buy out TikTok, to talk to Elon, he's a friend, he's not an enemy, to buy up influencers in this country. This was a speech Netanyahu gave on U.S. soil in New York not that long ago. We played it, and he even continued to state, and I'm not mincing words, but I'll put it in mind, but he continued to state those that aren't purchasable, they will take out. Unalive. Murder. That's terrorist activity. Our government isn't even doing anything about it. They're protecting that man and everything he's doing and standing for, because once again, they are all just getting the orders from the bankers, the world bankers that have the current world firmly in their grasp. But I love this image. Algorithms with porn, cats, and pro-Israel. And here you have Elon cranking up the pro-Israel because that day has happened. And there is a drastic shift on X. And I humored it for a bit. I had a lot of engagement with all this pro-Israel content. And then I finally started cleaning things up. Like, okay, I want to see less of this. And now it's actually sifting through to where it's even like you can stay sane. But the shift happened nonetheless. People are still making it through my feeds that I never followed, never liked. How, like, the pro-Israel, the algorithmic impact is still incredibly noticeable with those with eyes to see. Imagine the predicament we put ourselves in. You don't got to take my word for it. Give this a listen.
Because the intersection of big data, connectivity, and artificial intelligence, and what it does in robotics and genetics and all the other fields, Uli, that you mentioned, everything, that is changing our world in rapid succession.
What do you take from this?
The future belongs to those who can seize this change. We are positioned right at the cusp of this change, right at the center of this change. We can take it, and we are. It's changing us. It's giving us powers and prowess that we never had before. And cyber is a real domain of power.
Evil, man.
It's a new kind of warfare, very different from what we've seen before. I'm talking about the capacity, and it's not imaginary, it's not futuristic, and it's not exaggerated. With the click of a button, you can bring down nations to their knees very rapidly, if you so desire.
Click of a button, you can bring down nations, if you so desire. Connect this information with Larry Adel, or Larry. Now I'm connecting claimed Jewish individuals, but that other gentleman, the porn owning one. Come on, it paints the bigger picture. Sorry, I'm having a mental fatigue day, and to bring up the names, I believe this is now the next most pressing current issue we must be facing. Consent with this tactic is entirely out the window, which I believe and I know when you look into the data, and it's all out there. We can see the uptick in Alzheimer's, which is 100% attributed to the aluminum we're absorbing on the nano spectrum. Aluminum doesn't exist in nature on the nano spectrum. Full stop. Proven. Indisputable. So all the nano aluminum particulates that we are exposed to is man created. Grasp that. Okay? And it's proven now to the uptick of the Alzheimer's, so many other things, even the die-off of human life as we know it. You can look at it through other aspects, pH in soil, the impacts it's having on our vegetation, our trees, our forests, and how it's killing off all life. The bumblebee is now going extinct. A lot of people aren't aware of that. It is on the brink of extinction. There's herds. Once again, I'm forgetting the proper name, but the reindeer, right? In habitats, prior herds for generations in the number, in the tune of millions, recorded year after year, millions. They live in an area which is untouched by man. The only method that would be impacting their populations would be things along these lines. Full stop. Their now number is recorded in the tens of thousands. Kelp in the ocean. I believe it's kelp. Yeah, the number one oxygen producer. There's been like a 80 or 90% decrease in the number one oxygen producer. Folks, we cannot afford to allow these things to continuously be happening in our sky. Let's touch on this singular point. Here's Robert F. Kennedy. RFK is people, as he's kind of known today. We are going to stop this crime. Absorb this for a second. He's outright calling it a crime. It's not a contrail. There's substances. There's a difference, folks. Right here. Right here. Notice the difference. One is a contrail. One is a chemtrail. Chemtrail, meaning substances intentionally being sprayed under the lens, the guise, the hoax of fighting global warming. Oh, if we put aluminum particles into the stratosphere, we can reflect the sun rays. Who cares what impact it has on the plant life, animal life, human life? We can stop global warming. That's just the excuse to continue playing God. I believe the intended impact is to, because now they've aerosolized mRNAs, vaccinations. Folks, there's no consent. We gotta stop this and nip it in the bud. All the other particles, barium, strontium, nanoplastics, are all incredibly damning, and it's having neurological impacts, and frankly, it's taking us out of the game. But any critical mind, if you haven't watched The Dimming on Geoengineering Watch, you must see that documentary. You can't project as a loving father or mother and protect your children within your household from touching the stove. You know, don't cross the street, hold my hand. It's a hollow projection of fulfilling, protecting your child, because these particles are making it into your home. So you got to address this threat as well. Unfortunately, that's just the reality. So let's step up to the plate. It's not doom and gloom. Let's do what we can. On Geoengineering Watch, they already have pre-built it out. I believe it, I'll make sure it's in the description below. If it's not there, I'll add it. But this is a singular, simple step where you can reach out to state representatives. But the more impactful, they won't listen to us anyways, but the way it's submitting through their webpage, they're accumulating and accounting. So futuristically, they could provide us with the information on how many people reach out here, here, and here. And that now gives us the numbers to actually expose and do something. And that would be incredibly telling. because if we reach out individually, yeah, it's important. We should be doing it anyway, but there's no proper accounting. So that's a big missing piece of the puzzle. But contrails is news, and all the other people that are saying safe and effective and calling this conspiratorial talk, and a lot of people are mind-numbingly drinking that up as an excuse not to actually look at the incredibly, it's not even an argument. This is happening. Once again, RFK talked about it as a crime. But to bank on him as though he is going, don't worry, trust the plan, we're going to put a stop to this. He didn't put a stop to the pharmaceutical advertising. He hasn't put a stop to the one industry that is given immunity. That is the bare minimum. If this administration was pro-God, pro-humanity, MAGA, any of those false propagandist labels, at a bare minimum, they would be fulfilling just that. Strip those companies of the immunity immediately. Make it like the other 190 plus countries that it's illegal. They don't allow pharmaceuticals any advertising space, full stop. The fact they followed suit to the one other country that allows it, but has, even to this day, more strict measures in place to hone in that industry because it's profit over health, that's proven. It tells us all we need to know. Enough talk, RFK. You've shown your colors. You flip-flopped already regarding health. And stop the dang crime. What I've been seeing here in Arizona, and this recent bout of moisture came on the coattails of some of the craziest streaked skies we've seen in years. We're all living under that. We can't hide from that. You're absorbing it. So let's plug Masterpiece. That's the one heavy metals, forever chemicals, tincture that you get a discount right here, one of our affiliations. And I'm not even doing it for, I'm stating it because for the time being, you must eradicate this stuff in your body to maintain your brain, control over your own thoughts, minimize Alzheimer's, memory loss, all the things like I'm even feeling in this moment. I feel completely inadequate to properly represent with words what I've absorbed and what I know. There's cognitive disconnects within my own ability to really share what I've gone over and what I know. And it's getting scarier in that regard. But damn, it's beautiful to face reality. So how boring would life be without these challenges? Let's rise to them and put a stop and get back. We don't even know what normal function is anymore. We've been so deteriorated. We think the healthiest among us, that is the pinnacle of health. It is not. Just check this out. They would have you believe that that's water vapor, that that's ice crystallization. What a load of... So now that people are fully realizing the sky is sprayed with metallic particles, the next step will be to realize that these same heavy metals infecting everything are also being manipulated by frequency. You can see it for yourself everywhere. You see those wave patterns in the sky? And they try to debunk all this. Once again, X isn't our friend. Elon isn't our friend. Sorry, newsflash. He's done some things, but they're trying their hardest to combat. That's not a natural cloud formation. We never saw any of this growing up. Are you freaking kidding me? The new claim to the new 8 cloud formations that have only happened in our generation. It's being caused. And when you look into the frequency side of things and how that also impacts human cognitive, physical well-being with the accumulation of these particles within your body, we're barely scratching the surface as to truly even understanding the depth of the impact that's having. And I don't want to find out, or any of us to find out, through the experimental lab rat phase of it and arguably not having a way out of it, than just putting a stop to it right now. For those that are still struggling to accept that level, just take a second and absorb. They said safe and effective. They withheld the information, the real data, the thousands of known negative side effects of their bioweapon shot. They called a safe and effective vaccine. They coerced, they manipulated, they incentivized, they forced to an extent in certain countries, more so than here. They went to that extent over that. You're having a hard time that they would go to this length? I don't get that. Lots more on this. We've covered that. But for us to maintain an ability to face this ruling class, we must maintain a level of our health and do better on the free speech. That's it. Those two things, and bring God in. The purity of God over the popularity is the majority of this world's churches is seeking. The popularity. That is, I just attended Generation Church right down in the valley. The pastor just got back from a trip on Israel, to Israel. He talked a lot about in his sermon how important the motive and intent is behind all these lessons he encompassed. And it just had me, what was your motive and in your intent on truly going to Israel? Now he tried projecting it as though, okay, to walk in Jesus' footsteps. And the purity of that, obviously, can't question that. But the timing of it literally had me thinking that that's like trying to get your Bible and be like, I want to go somewhere remote and draw near to Jesus in prayer. Great thought. Beautiful thought. I need to do more of that. But that's like coming to the conclusion, I want to go to an island somewhere. You know what? I'm going to go to Epstein Island to do that. Now it doesn't make sense. It just simply doesn't make sense. In fact, that's like this comparison I'm about to do is like actually going to that island while Epstein was there in his heyday and we know what he was doing with children. That doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in this particular moment in time without proper explanation. There's no purity to go and to walk in Jesus' footsteps in this moment of time as they are actively, yet again, violating cease and assist orders. They've killed over 300 individuals since the recent, what do they call it? Ceasefire. 300 civilians, women and children. So to go there is they're committing these war crimes. The International Court had representatives of Gaza, Israel, the other 6 nations Israel's in active war with. And they're like, after reviewing the information, they came to the conclusion that Israel is committing war crimes, genocide, from so many methods, not just basically carpet bombing, but through starvation, through water disruption, turning that landmass into an open air prison camp. So it doesn't compute for any pastor to state, I'm going there to walk in Jesus' footsteps. Like, really? To associate with war criminals under a presidential figure or a prime minister that has a warrant for his arrest for crimes against humanity? There's no purity in that. Your time, energy, and money could go towards better things. And I'm sure if we actually researched it, it wasn't just his pastor. It wasn't funded by him solely. Now, this is speculative because I have yet to solely do the research. But I'd say highly likely it was multiple pastors through NGOs, through Israel, that are funding the indoctrination for people to go there under the guise of, yes, walking in Jesus' footsteps, that spiritual high, to pump more pro-Israel content. After all, they're dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into our own churches and our geofencing to infringe on our privacy. The writing's on the wall, folks. There's nothing pure about it. It makes it challenging to plug into a community and find that purity, but I'm just not finding it out there. That leads one to the importance of seeking the understanding for oneself over any organized religion. Organized religion has its place. It has its perks. It has its benefits. It has its necessities. But we are to fervently understand it on an individual level. Even if we tapped into the purity and we didn't do our due diligence, who's to say if our faith is reliant on another man, another individual? God knows. God knows. This is crazy, folks. It's so disgusting. This is maximum pumping. It's not ice crystallization. You couldn't have more of a cloud if you intended to have one behind a jet. It's time to wake up. It's time to do something. Get over to that Zero Engineering webpage now and just send out, not just to the U.S., do multiple states. Frankly, we're just not doing enough. It's just continuing every day. There's so many other things to touch on. The 50-year mortgages, Mike Huckabee serving as a U.S. ambassador, yet a total traitor. The war is still waging in Ukraine. What happened to ending that in 24 hours, Trump? Dishonest. It's not 5D chess. We all know that Zelensky is literally paying himself and his pals hundreds of millions of dollars. That's been proven. He just bought up an estate in California in like 20-something million dollars. They have all these luxurious cars. What the freak are we doing? We've welcomed terrorists that we at one point issued tens of millions of reward to capture right into the White House and embracing them as friends. Literally terrorists that murdered, beheaded, and this is on video, and it's horrific, our own soldiers. Doing grinning photos, holding the heads of our soldiers. We're welcoming terrorists now. We're propping them up in presidential figures, as presidential figures in other countries. It's disgusting. There's so many other... What about Epstein? JFK, MLK. Where's Maha? Where's MAGA? Mass deportations. An anti-war president? Get out of here. As General Flynn stated, it's not 5D chess. It is what it is, folks. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow. And those have been willing to swallow that and have been supporting UNMUZZLED chat thus far. I appreciate you so much. Let this, absorb this. It is pure gold. It's why spiritually awakening people are quietly withdrawing from society. You're operating from a different level of awareness, than the collective social environment. And maintaining that consciousness while surrounded by unconscious patterns requires enormous psychological energy and so much more. So this kind of captures what we've been enduring. Let this fuel you and motivate you. This isn't doom. This is just a reality, folks. Let's face it. I know we have an opportunity to do great things. There's great glory, come what may. Look at the apostles. Look at what happened to Jesus. If we're truly following in his footsteps, there's no fear to be had. And that is the only glory to be had in this life. We could ever be so lucky to stand on our convictions, carry that cross. Not many of us are going to make it. Narrow is that path, and wide is what the masses have been taking, and I've been taking for far too long in my life. Hence, the importance of continuously showing up here. It's been a failure. The suppression measures, my own defects, you name it. You name it. But this hasn't been successful enough to carry its own, to have the impact, to be a level of organization that's needed to really have the impact that's needed. I'll take all the blame. But let's end with this last clip. It's very powerful. I hope you enjoy it.
Spiritually awake people are quietly disappearing from society because Jung discovered something profound. When you become genuinely conscious, staying engaged with unconscious social patterns becomes psychologically unsustainable. But this withdrawal serves a specific purpose. It's temporary recharging that allows awakened individuals to return and offer authentic connection to those ready for deeper relationships. There's a mass exodus happening that most people don't recognize. The most psychologically developed individuals in your workplace, your social circles, your family, they're quietly stepping back, not from anger or superiority, but from what Jung called consciousness fatigue. Jung predicted this pattern over a century ago. He understood that psychological awakening creates what I call dimensional incompatibility. You're operating from a different level of awareness than the collective social environment. And maintaining that consciousness while surrounded by unconscious patterns requires enormous psychological energy. If you've been feeling the pull to withdraw, to need more solitude, to find social interaction draining in ways it never used to be, Jung would say you're not becoming antisocial. You're following an archetypal pattern that every individuating person must navigate. The consciousness burden. Why awakening creates isolation. Psychological development doesn't make life easier. It makes it more complex. When you begin seeing unconscious patterns operating in yourself and others, you can't unsee them.
Wow. It looks like it goes on longer. I need to find that. Watch it in its entirety. I keep clicking the wrong thing. I'm so dang human. As that was playing, I'm sitting here looking at this 30-06 round. Charlie's not with us anymore. I'm grateful for that man, his path, and the sacrifice he paid. Are we going to seize that man's journey to the fullest? I see a lot of people muzzling themselves. The true foundation in my eyes that he laid is essentially capturing the importance of being unmuzzled. And more importantly, the gaining the abilities to have effective dialogue. That it's okay to disagree on any given thing. And it's through that dialogue that irrelevant. Obviously, one person may get something more right than the other and wrong, but we need the ability to be wrong to get things right. So all this conspiracy, anti-Semitism, these are all CIA operations to hinder, to polarize us against type of think and not have this dialogue. We've deteriorated as a people that over words, we literally react as though a knife is in our body. So we got stabbed in the back. What is that? We got a lot of maturing, a lot of growing, a lot of cleansing needed mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but physically. It's of the utmost to eradicate parasites, heavy metals, forever chemicals. Just cleanse the body. It's becoming harder and harder to get more pure things as they're dumping literally poisonous materials in our skies. It's happening. Oh, it's out of our control. That ain't an excuse. I wish it was less covert methods. If they were resorting to more of this, or bombs, or gas, we would respond in kind. It's the covert, controlling the information, all the different levels of tactics in unison, working together, that has people willing to lie to oneself. I believe there's no worse lie to be told than to oneself. Understand the intent, the motive, my brothers and sisters, is so you could keep a level of health and discernment for yourself. We need you and your gifts from God to face this evil that is very alive and well today. I'm thankful for this moment. I hope there's next year. We could even be more thankful then. I hope that the shift is even better next year, that we've maintained our mental, our physical, our emotional, our spiritual, and our freedom of speech. Let's go over a few quick Bible verses. Then, since it's Thanksgiving, there's some Bible reads under giving. Let's recommend it. Check this out. There's Exodus 35:22 stating God is honored by our gifts. Ezra 2:68-69. Generous giving honors God. Mark 9:41. God will reward us for giving to others. That was Mark 9:41, yeah. Acts 2:44-45. Giving helps others live. Acts 28:10. We should support Christian workers. 1 Timothy 6:17-19. Wealthy people should give generously. I don't know why, but that verse of easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a wealthy person make it to heaven? Something like that. So you wealthy folks, snap out of it. Give generously. Hebrews 13:16. God is pleased with your gifts. 1 John 3:17. Giving reflects God's love. When I make it down the valley, I'm going to do what I can to fulfill just that. We truly can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to these attacks. It leaves us lacking the basic ability to even function, yet to properly address any of it. At this rate, all they need is more time. Let's not give that to them. Check out our affiliations. If you care to see more Unmuzzled Chat, or even to continue this work at all, consider a donation. Or this adventure is inevitably abruptly going to come to an end. We as a people cannot afford more hits like this. Fact is, we don't need more truth seekers being snuffed out by all this tyrannical suppression. We need more emboldened fighting to even get things wrong sometimes, so we can, therefore, get things what? Right. So if there is a next time, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you all get some quality time with your family, friends, and some really good quality eats. With great love, take care.